No, was not. It's almost close. But we asked each other so to come, to the bench to start to be in the locker room. So 3 months since that was, I think so. So it's a lot of time I've been out. So be involved already, but it's close. His club was training good, and he started to get minutes and minutes to get his best. So, but it's incredible news.
That is Pep Guardiola talking about the imminent return of Kevin De Bruyne to Manchester City's lineup. And as we say hi on this special episode of the Adam Gold Show, After Dark, Premier League. We're not even previewing a match week because we're at least a week away from the truncated match week 21. As I say hi to Jake Umar. Was it fun while it lasted for both of us?
Yeah, why not? No, we'll see what ends up happening. Long way to go, but that was not a December to remember for Arsenal.
Well, it was not a good finish to December for sure. So let me start it this way. Who won December?
City.
Yep, that's the correct answer.
I mean, that is the no correct answer. They've got a game in hand. They got De Bruyne back, and they play
Haaland too. Haaland's coming too.
And they play Liverpool and Arsenal and can make up those points very easily. They play Arsenal at home and Liverpool away, and 4 points out of those two fixtures, and they're top of the league.
Yeah, here I'm going to stop short because I don't think those will be the matches that will be the difference.
No, but they are 6 pointers, and I think those will be
right.
Those will be big ones.
Oh yeah. See, here's the thing. My opinion of City hasn't really changed, and my opinion of Arsenal hasn't really changed, and my opinion of Liverpool hasn't really changed. I actually think Liverpool is better than I thought. And they are better positioned than I thought, providing they can survive the next 4 weeks without Mohamed Salah. And for all of his not steep qualities, Wataru Endo, because he has been very key in very many ways. But they're going to have to survive AFCON and the Asian Cup, and their absences, especially with some injuries on the back end that they just can't. There's nothing they can do about it unless they go out into the market in January, which they may do. But I'm not anticipating anything earth-shattering happening. It's hard to do that. Really is hard to do it in January. You can make some fringe, additions, but I don't think you're doing anything impactful really in January. Certainly not at the last minute. But ultimately, I still think City it's not the same team. It's not last year's City. But that doesn't mean that Arsenal, Liverpool, Aston Villa didn't leave too many points out there and simply just make it a little bit easier for City. I don't think it'll be easy at all. I know they are the favorites, the betting favorites right now. They have a better than a 50-50 chance of winning the league. But that's better than a 75% chance of winning the league, which they might have had they had Kevin De Bruyne all year.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. I think it's at this point, if we're going to put, odds on it, if we were going to pick somebody to put your money behind, it would be City. They've done it, and then they did it again, and then they did it again. And so they've won 5 of the last 6 Premier Leagues. It's getting near, not quite, but getting near Bayern levels of dominance in terms of winning the league. We can talk about the depth down the league, but it doesn't really matter if you have the same team winning it over and over again. And they've got arguably the best player in the league back fit for the run in, which is going to be really big for him. Now, De Bruyne may need some time to get up to match fitness, and that's all right. But once he is in that home stretch, do you bet against them? I don't. And despite all of their form, they went an entire calendar year without losing a match at home. That, I think, is a pretty impressive feat. and
Sure.
really sets them up for what's coming up next. And we can talk about their squad being a little less deep as it was, but I think the irony is by not having De Bruyne, by not having Haaland, they've actually built in and brought in some players and built in some squad depths that the fact that they've only have 3 losses and are 2 points with the game, 5 points behind the game in hand of Liverpool tells me that they're good enough to get it done as is, and they don't need to add. And I think while they're not last year's team, you don't win a treble every year, and they won't win a treble this year, but they will be a force in every competition that they are in, and they will be a tough out in Europe, and they will be the team to beat on the home stretch coming in. And it's going to take everything in the tank for Liverpool or Arsenal to pull it off. I give the slight edge to Liverpool because they don't have Champions League. And as they get into the business end of Europa, we'll see how much they prioritize that when the league may be on offer for them.
I think it'll depend when we get there. I think I think in the early stages of Europa, it might be a little bit easier, but I mean, they're kind of busy. I'm not entirely sure what I want to do, what I want to see happen on Sunday. I mean, the FA Cup's a big deal. But I mean, they got, EFL Cup semifinal, home and away ties with Fulham. I mean, for a side that only plays 2 matches in the Premier League in January after their New Year's Day match with Newcastle, they're pretty busy in January. Got 5 other matches to play. So, and I think Klopp takes them relatively seriously. I think he wants to win Europa. Yeah. I think he wants to win the EFL Cup.
I say this all the time when people cheapen trophies. The point of the game is to win trophies. And so when there is a trophy on offer, you should go for it. And I don't think you should play maybe in earlier rounds, whatever. But once you're in it, try to win it, because you don't know these moments and these credentials are so far and few between. Only one team can win any given competition. And so when you start getting into the knockouts and the business end of a competition, it's kind of irresponsible and disrespectful to not take it seriously. So I don't fault him for going for it. You should go for it, because you're not going to get many of those nights. And the whole point of this game and with everything else is to find joy. And yeah, it's the Europa, but when you win it, that night's going to be fun, and it's going to be one you remember. And so you want to do that, and you want to build that, and it can be a stepping stone for greater things for that team. But I think Sunday's going to be a huge test. I will see how Liverpool lay out. Arsenal have 3 matches in January. That's it. Mm-hmm. They've got the FA Cup, and then they've got Palace and Forest. And so it is a really, I think this comes at a time when we can kind of talk about what happened to Arsenal. Kind of perfect segue is, you talked about it at the beginning of the season, their squad depth. That is the thing that makes them the biggest threat to City, except when all of that depth has been completely unavailable to them for most of the first half of the season. You saw, I think, the emotional and physical toll Anfield away takes on you, how it has played out in the next 2 games. You hear about it all the time it's a great analogy. Is ACC football. When you have the Coastal, you pour it out, you play against Clemson away, and you give it your best, and you lose that game close. Well, then you lose the next game. Or in ACC basketball, you go to Cameron and you gut out a result, and then you lose the next game to Boston College. I think without the depth, without the ability to have Tomiyasu spell in, have a Thomas Partey available to rotate in the midfield, to have a Gabriel Jesus and Eddie Nketiah that could rotate throughout the season. Basically, you had Eddie start, and you had Jesus work his way into fitness, and he's played every single game. And so Saka and Martinelli have been unable to get a rest, because ideally, if you had all of those pieces, you may have seen Jesus on the wing and Eddie at front and Trossard on the left, and some interplays to give those players rest. But that core 11 for Arsenal has pretty much played when
Yep.
available, and
All the
9 of
time.
those players have played pretty much all the time. And
Yeah, I
you
wrote it
saw
down.
the legs start to go. So I think the break, the having, the time between Fulham to the Liverpool match, they have 2 weeks from the 7th to the 20th. They're going to go do a warm weather training camp in Dubai, I believe, for part of that time. I think just getting off their feet, getting some rest, maybe bringing in an addition. The only player they're losing for AFCON or Asia Cup is Tomiyasu. Partey was not in the Ghana squad. Now that may be an indicator of his injury and the severity of it.
Yeah, he's not fit yet either. That's what I read.
He's been training lightly. He started training with the team, but I don't see him playing before Arsenal go to Palace on the 20th, which is still 3 weeks away. And so, I think that the depth of the Arsenal squad has been severely depleted and has affected them because they don't have legs. And you saw that just completely. That team against Fulham looked unrecognizable. They were just completely knackered.
Yeah, and they got the first goal, and I thought that would give them a little bit of an energy boost, and it went the other way. I was really surprised at that. Here's the thing about, because I wrote down a couple of things about because I still think there's depth there, but this is the same type of thing that Arteta did last year, because they basically went with 10 or 11 guys who played more than 2,000 minutes last year. And even though Jesus was hurt coming out of the World Cup, I was surprised he only missed about 7 or 8. Might have been 11 matches. I think he missed 11 Arsenal matches.
That's a third of the season.
Right. No, that's a significant number coming out of the World Cup. But for the most part, I mean, when he was available, he played. But I don't know, and I don't know why, and maybe it's just the same because it's what they did last year. But I think in some ways it simply boils down for me to this. Last year, even through injuries, the big 4 offensive players, Martinelli, Saka, Odegaard, Jesus, had 55 goals.
Yep.
This year, right now, they've got 15.
Yeah.
And they're playing at about the same rate. Odegaard missed a little bit. Martinelli missed a couple of matches. I know he wasn't completely fit in a couple others.
Sure.
But for the most part, these guys have played. It just hasn't gone the same way for them. And,
and that's
I wonder,
that's the variance.
Does that wear on you? Because they should be scoring more.
It's kind of funny. You see it with Havertz, right? He's playing pretty well. And once the first goal went in, you saw how he had 4 and 5 and starts going. And it's, you see this in a lot of sports, and a made basket is contagious. Scoring goals is contagious.
Yeah.
When a team is full of confidence and they take their chances, then the next chance seems to arrive at their feet. When you start missing chances, then the pressure in both boxes becomes so extreme that you're unable to really handle that. And as a team, it's here we go again, feeling that can overwhelm the locker room. And having had 2 years where you missed out on the run in, maybe it's good to get it out of the way early, and have a chance to claw it back. Who knows? Maybe not being on top at the new year is a good thing. Arsenal haven't won the league. They're at being top after that midway point the last 2 times they've been there, in 08 and in 23. So maybe that's a blessing in disguise. Who knows? But I do know that no team has won the league with a run of form as poor as Arsenal had over the last 5 games. And so that doesn't mean it can't be done. It's a different league. It's a different season, but it doesn't bode well long-term. And I think it's more because of the feeling around the club and what you're saying in terms of the attacking output. Now, the XG is there, but part of that is possession, and possession stats and getting shots are great. But if you're not taking them, they're not threatening, you can accumulate a lot of XG on very low percentage chances, which I think is what they've done the last 2 games. There really hasn't been great threat or anything that gives me a lot of confidence. It's like, oh, they should have had that. But that said, a couple of those bounces go the other way, and you're looking at top of the league with games and with points to spare. And so that Villa game is a perfect example of a game they should have won. They played really well in that game.
Right.
Yeah. And win that, you feel different. The Fulham game, they played terrible. They didn't deserve anything from that match, frankly. And they're lucky that they only lost 2-0. The West Ham game, West Ham, they lost 2-0. West Ham game's another one. First goal, who knows? Again, why do we not have a chip in the ball? Why don't we use the technology we have at the World Cup? Beyond me. But that one doesn't go in at 0-0 at half. Who knows what happens in the second half? But credit to West Ham. They came in and they executed their game plan to perfection. And so I think this Sunday is going to be a very interesting psychological match going into a break. You have a 2-week break for Arsenal. And I know it's the FA Cup, but it's at home and you're going to field a strong side. And a win is it's not a must win, but it's a must perform.
Yeah, I don't know how strong a side Liverpool can field without Mo Salah. I mean, it's going to be good, but there won't be Mo Salah. And there won't be Salah for more than likely, unless Egypt bows out of AFCON early, Salah will not be at the Emirates on February 4th for the return match. He's almost certainly going to miss that one. And I mean, while I think they could survive without Wataru Endo, he's going to miss a bunch of matches too. Japan's probably has a better chance to win the Asian Cup than Egypt does of advancing far in AFCON. So, and while he is incredibly limited, he has been very useful for Liverpool, especially with Alexis McAllister down for the last few matches.
He played the best game in a Liverpool shirt in that Arsenal match. I was fully expecting him to be a little bit overwhelmed in that midfield, and he did an excellent job really kind of playing within himself and just taking what was on offer, which is a hard thing to do in those pressure-packed situations. So credit to him, credit to Liverpool. I think getting a tune out of these fringe players is a testament to the culture and the stability that Klopp has built at Liverpool, and it's what makes them a real threat to win this league. You could argue they should be undefeated right now. You could argue that
the only loss
is a fluke. You could argue that, and it's a fair argument to be made. And a team that's 20 games into the season with one loss is an elite performance. That is a title winning form, and they are they're well on their way. 90-point pace is a good pace that typically wins titles. And if you score at the rate they are best goal differential in the league, fewest losses in the league, very good goalkeeping, and an attack that can dominate and overwhelm opponents, as Newcastle found out. The most flattering 4-2 for Newcastle
ever.
That should have been 7-0. I mean, it was an absolute mauling. And so credit to them. They found their form and they're leaning into it. And they have a trump card up their sleeve in Anfield, which is a fortress and is arguably, if not the toughest, one of the 2 or 3 toughest places to go play in all of Europe.
Now, here's what's interesting to me about Liverpool. And I think this is really where they get their advantage because it was such a weakness last year. Because for me, in the games where they have struggled to score, it hasn't really been the forwards. Yes, Darwin, blah. And Diaz has gone through, down patches. But to me, it's the midfield. And if you go back and you look at the games where they have struggled to generate really good scoring chances, like they had 35 shots against United, but they didn't have that many great chances, right? We talked about it a couple of weeks ago. Van Dijk had a header. Kanate had a chance in close, but really
Trent
that
had
was
one
off a
wide.
scrum.
Yeah.
Right. Trent had his chance wide. But for the most part, their midfield didn't do much. But I think their midfield has so much variance. And I know I joked, I sent you a text yesterday, you can't have Curtis Jones because the rumor was that Arsenal had already started engaging in conversations with Curtis Jones. And I mean it. You can't have Curtis Jones because I actually think he is one of their two best attacking midfielders. And I think he can also, if needed, play in a deep lying role. They started him out. Klopp was playing him back there in some of the preseason, and he was tinkering with starting him at the 6. Jones is 22. He's a tremendous athlete. He can play anywhere on the field, I think, from the midfield up. I don't see him going anywhere unless it's for an enormous fee. It certainly isn't going to happen until the summer. They don't have enough depth right now to allow Curtis Jones to walk out the door. So I don't see him leaving the team this year. I have no idea what's going to be in the future. There was, talk about them going after Jamal Musiala, who plays sort of, maybe a similar role,
a little bit more attacking,
to Curtis Jones. Yeah, but he can.
It'll be
there's
interesting
a lot of
because I think Liverpool right now are in a unique spot as a club. Klopp has kind of hinted at this. They are a very well run unit, but they do need sales to make purchases right now. They are not a club where the owner is infusing cash, their own cash, to make changes. And Jones at 22, in a position where you could argue you have redundancy, where you have Szoboszlai, you could play Gakpo there, you have Alexis McAllister, you've got Trent, who's coming into the midfield. You've got options. If a suitable offer, 45, 50 million comes in, I could see him leaving this summer.
And in the summer, yes, certainly not now.
No, this would be a summer move. He's on very low wages. He's on, I think 15,000 a week. And so if Arsenal say we will quadruple your wages, right? Are Liverpool willing to turn down 45 plus 5 and the player turn down that type of wage increase? Because
what did you pay for Kai Havertz?
65. So
then Jones is 75 million pounds.
No, I
think he's better than Kai Havertz.
They're different players, but he's just, I think you also are not in the same position as Chelsea in terms of certain places. And so I think there's a market opportunity with Jones.
Well, I'm doing the negotiating, Jay.
Yeah. That I think 45, 50 probably gets it done. That said, I don't know if that's where I need us to focus in the summer. It would be a nice addition. But we need an attacking player. We need a out and out number 9 that can rotate with Gabriel Jesus, that allows Jesus to go out to the wing and give Saka a rest. And then probably another midfielder that can play, as you described Jones, it makes a lot of sense, but more of the name that I've heard floated around is Zubimendi out of Real Sociedad, who is a little deeper lying playmaker. He has a release clause. Could be a market opportunity there at 50 million euro. So given those types of players, I think that's where you'll see Arsenal do business, and you'll probably see either a left back or a defender come in January. But I would argue we may need to bring in an attacker, similar to how Trossard came in and added some verve in January last year. But it's going to be interesting. All three clubs
using him enough.
Trossard
is Mikel using Trossard, Jorginho enough?
He used Jorginho earlier. I think the issue with Mikel, and this has been something as a young manager he's going to have to learn, is he has to trust his squad. Why re-sign Reece Nelson if you're not going to start him when a player needs a rest? Now, these clubs have way more data. I'm not in training. They know the
Right.
fitness levels and kind of the ability of these players, but watching them on the field, they look exhausted. They look shattered. And so you've got a Smith Rowe back from injury. He's looked really lively every time he's come on the pitch since his return.
Yeah.
I would love to see him get a start here or there. Maybe he gets one against Liverpool on Sunday. I don't know. You have a Reece Nelson, you have a Trossard, you have a Jorginho. Those players, I think, need to get some minutes. I was particularly disappointed when we went to we went to PSV and I saw Saliba and Gabriel as a starting center back pair. There's no need for that. Now, they had no other starter on the field. The lineup was what I would anticipate. But then instead of bringing Jorginho off the bench, you brought Declan Rice off the bench. You brought Mo Odegaard off the bench instead of Trossard. And so you see that. You brought Gabriel Jesus off the bench because you don't have another striker other than Eddie. And so you saw some of that, and it just felt off. It felt a little bit naive. And I think the thing that when he has his full squad fit, I think he would be a little bit more willing to rotate and make those changes. I do think with the Timber injury really put a dent in his plans.
I agree.
Because I think he was a player that he was really counting on to transform kind of the attack. I think the injury to Jesus hurt us. And then Tomiyasu was just coming into form, really starting over Ben White at right back. And then the reports coming out is Ben White's been playing with a slight discomfort for the past.
He has not been great either, right? He has not been the Ben White we have seen.
He's playing through it for the team. And so I think this time off will do him a lot of good, and it'll be good to get them some rest. But yeah, he's got to trust the squad more. If he doesn't, we're going to see more of the same. So, kind of coming up on 30 minutes, I think we're going to be the second half of the season, 2024. It's going to be fascinating. Do City turn into a juggernaut again and kind of roll through everybody? Is it an inevitability? Do Liverpool maintain their form without Mo Salah? And can Arsenal regain some confidence to get back into the conversation? Or are they going to pivot and say, we've got a defense good enough to win in Europe. Let's lean into that and get our first Champions League, because they do have a chance there. And so
let me ask you this question.
These teams play it out.
Can Arsenal get to 86 points?
Yeah, I think they can. I think it's going to be.
I think that's your winning number.
Extremely challenging. But it's going to require
86 points is your winner.
Yeah, I think that all three, Liverpool, Arsenal, and City, can all get to 86 points from this point. They're all at 40 or higher, and you've got 18 games left. So yeah, like I think that if you look at kind of where you got 54 points up for grabs,
might not even need 86. 84 might win the league. It really might. I've been on that for weeks. I don't think we're going to see anything close to 90 points. I think the loss of Gundogan and Mahrez are way too much for.
I don't
City
think
to
Mahrez
overcome.
is. I think Gundogan, yes, because they've seamlessly. I think they've seamlessly integrated Doku into that winger role. I don't think I don't think it's the attack. You've got Alvarez, Haaland, Doku, Grealish, and Bernardo Silva. I don't think they're missing Mahrez. I think Gundogan, who can come in and play an 8 that can get big goals, they are missing that. And without De Bruyne, it's just been a lot to ask of Silva, and Foden. Foden is starting to find some form, but he really hasn't played all that much this year. And we'll see kind of how he comes off the bench. He doesn't really start for them as regularly as he had in the past. So the Mahrez move, not as much. Gundogan, absolutely. A giant hole that no one has been able to replace, because let's not forget, he was their captain. And so he not only was he was an excellent player, but he's also a leader. And then I think there's a little bit of a leadership void, as much as there is a talent void. There's still a talent void for them.
How can you have a midfield of Rodri, De Bruyne, and Gundogan? Shouldn't that be illegal?
So perfectly balanced.
I mean, how can you? Ooh, it makes me almost angry that was allowed. How did we all just stand by and let that happen? But I don't see them, for all of Jeremy Doku's incredible talent and speed and skill with the ball. And I'm not saying I'm not sold. He is unbelievable. I just think it's a little bit different. And when
It's different.
games get a little tighter, like Trent can kind of control him in the game.
I mean, Ben White did when he was fit.
Liverpool.
Ben White put him in his pocket at the Emirates. And so if
I think there's a one-trick pony thing about him that he's going to have to develop a little bit more.
There's kind of 3 style of winger. You've got the Doku, pacey, get to the byline, Martinelli, get to the byline, superpower, cut it back. You've got the Mo Salah, cut inside, put it in the top corner. And then you've got the Bukayo Saka, Jack Grealish, kind of start outside, fade in, come out, do a little bit of both styles. And those are your 3 types of wingers. And I think they traded Mahrez, who was more in a Mo Salah vibe, who could cut in, get the goal I
loved Riyad Mahrez. Loved everything about it. He's just a big goal scorer.
For more of a true traditional boots on the chalk, touchline winger, which gives City a different look. It'll be interesting how it plays out. I do think they'll lose some. They've sacrificed control for to be actually a little bit more like Liverpool. And so I think it'll be fascinating to see how they decide to play out the season, and in particular how it manifests in Europe, because I do think that style is going to be a little bit more difficult to maintain in a European competition. I think defense wins in Europe. I think offense wins in the league, and that's why you've seen the team typically that scores the most goals in the Premier League tends to win the Premier League. And so
that means Aston Villa
Liverpool have they're staying in it. And so we'll see how they finish. But I do think they're getting found out a little bit. I do think that their offsides trap is playing with fire, and I think as teams now start to work them out, we'll see them get drawn back into that top 4 hunt. And I do think that top 3 of, well, right now it's Villa, City, and Liverpool, but a Liverpool, City, Arsenal will separate themselves and really fight it out as the season goes on.
Because I think the number is relatively low. And again, 85, give or take. I think that we're going to get into the last, 4 or 5 matches, and there's going to be more teams theoretically that are in it than we would have expected. Because I think at that point, I think Villa will still be in it. Because again, I don't think the number's we're not going to be looking at something in the 90s where it's only 1 or 2 teams that really have a chance to get there. So, I'm going to leave Villa in the hunt for it a little bit, but I think it's interesting is that I believe we've got 5 teams for 4 spots, because I think we're only going to have 4 Champions League spots based on how this whole thing is going to play out in Europe. And Tottenham's still there with all of their issues.
They're only 1 point back of Arsenal, and with same number of games played. So they have to be considered in there. I don't think they're in the. I know it's only 1 point, but I think there is a difference between the other clubs, but they are in that European hunt. I do ultimately think they finish 5th. I think that I think Villa or United will end up in that 4 spot, and Tottenham will finish 5th or 6th in Europe.
Which United will be in the 4th spot?
I think Villa or Manchester United will be in the 4th spot.
Okay, so now you're going to think this question is crazy. I'm not sure United finishes in a European placement.
I think that they have the talent to do it, and I do think that their squad is a better squad than the teams above them, and so It's hard to
Are
see
they?
them continuing this run of form, but I don't know. I think that
Jack is mad at me right now. Just
they've
so
got
everybody knows.
a huge mountain to climb. I would not put them as my top choice. I think Villa, Tottenham, United, maybe West Ham, they're going to be in a jumble. I love Brighton. I just don't. I think they've been a little bit too erratic, which is funny because I'm saying
They've been
United
hurt. They've had too many key guys hurt. No Solly March. Estupinian just came back. Matoma's been banged up, so they need to get some of their better players healthier. Jack's mad at me because he heard me say that I didn't think United was going to. I think that they might finish out of a European placement. I think the most underrated stat in all of sports is goal differential. They're underwater. They're -5 through 20 matches. And we all know that run of form that they had that was built on how the hell did they win that match? That is coming back to bite them. And while I think Ten Hag knows what he's doing, I don't think he knows what he's doing with the players that he's got. And
I don't think so. And I say this with all due respect to a very good manager, and I've got my best man at my wedding is biggest United fan I know, and he's out. Giving McTominay the armband and bringing in McTominay over Manu, I think has done him in, and I just think that at the end of the day, I don't think he is the right fit. I do think that managers matter and managers fit certain clubs. And when you've got a manager that fits your club, it makes sense. And pretty quickly if he does. I don't think at any point Ten Hag has fit United. He has not ever seemed like a United manager. Was a smart hire on paper, coming very highly respected from Ajax, kind of all those different things. But I do think United need to think about who they are and what they need. And when someone fits your club, you know it. Big Ange at Spurs fits that club. Instantly, you saw a connection. You saw it work. Klopp and Liverpool is the quintessential example. Sir Alex Ferguson and United, perfect example. Arsene Wenger and Arsenal. I mean, there's a whole generation of Arsenal fans that think the club was named after Arsene Wenger. And then you've got Arteta and Arsenal. They seem to be a good fit. De Zerbi and Brighton. These clubs and these managers, they get linked together, and I think there's something to be said for that. And I just don't see Ten Hag lasting or being the guy that's going to restore United, but he may linger long enough to be a thorn in the side of other clubs and create some problems along the way. But
I don't see that. I think Newcastle finishes above him. Brighton finishes above him. West Ham maybe. It all depends on if David Moyes kills them.
So let me ask you a question. I think Chelsea are only 3 points back with plus goal
I think Chelsea finishes ahead of them too.
All right, if you say that, then there's no way they finish in Europe.
I think Chelsea finishes ahead, and I'm going to go out on a crazy limb here. I wouldn't be shocked to see Wolves finish ahead of them. I love Wolves. All depends on who Wolves get.
We had them in our relegation list. Look at them. I mean,
I know.
We need to go back and look at our predictions from that and just hold our hand up. We were wrong on Wolves. Wolves explicitly. I think we had Wolves and Everton, all three of us, that they just weren't going to do it. And Everton looked.
No, I had Everton up. I had Wolves down.
Yeah,
I had Wolves down.
Man, Gary O'Neill, great manager.
And they're good, and they've been missing Pedro Neto for how long? And he's coming back. It all depends. They may sell him though. You may end up with Pedro Neto.
I would love it. Be an exact type of January signing we need. Can't do that without sales, so we'll see what happens. But pretty tough December, but hope springs eternal, and it all starts Sunday.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about Sunday, to be honest. I think
it's bigger for Arsenal than Liverpool.
I mean, I don't know. It all depends on how Klopp wants to treat it. I do know this: they've got 5 healthy defenders. That's all. That's
I don't
All
think
Liverpool
it
has.
matters. I don't think it matters who Liverpool put out on the field for what this game means psychologically for Arsenal going into a 2-week break, coming off of back-to-back defeats. So it doesn't matter who Liverpool put on the field. This
So
game is
take
a
Arsenal-
psychological bellwether for Arsenal at home against Liverpool. In fact, if Liverpool put out a weakened side and still win, then it could be a very, very tough. Arsenal may be dragged back into a top 4 fight and might not even make the Champions League if they lose this game. That's
Harvey
how
Elliott will replace Mo Salah on the right.
game is on Sunday. So
That's what I think. Harvey Elliott will replace Mo Salah on the right. And I think you're going to see a lot of teenagers in the squad and very likely on the field.
Yeah,
there's a
it'll
so,
be
they
a,
have
it will
so
be
many
telling,
so many matches.
But I anticipate a very strong Arsenal side out there, and I do think that if they need the result more than Liverpool, and I think it's an important touchstone in their season and one that could help regain some confidence, help regain some form. We'll see if it's Allison in goal or Kelleher, but regardless,
I think it'll be Allison.
I think they will play an important
Allison.
It's a much, as I noted, I said it multiple times, but it's much more important for Arsenal the way they ended the year to start the year with Liverpool. It doesn't matter who's on the field for Liverpool, beating Liverpool at home and then going into a 2-week warm weather break, good vibes. And then you have 2 more games in January and you get Liverpool again in the league. This is a big 4-game stretch for the Gunners, and I think it will make or break their season in the league.
All right, we're going to say goodbye here. We have no matches to pick because we're not picking FA Cup matches. So I will just leave with this, Jay. Do you remember when we were puffing our chests out because we were all like 10, 12, 14 games over 500 in our picks, and we were plus 2,600. You at one point had gotten over plus 3,000. I was just below it. Jack leads. Yep. Jack leads. He came from the depths of unknown. He is 99 and 99. He is minus 405. Yes, that's the lead. I am next. I am 18 games under 500, minus 435. You are also 99 and 99, minus 1410. We need to stop being bad at this. I'm just saying.
So
what happened?
Well, we're starting the new year where I started the start of the last year at 500. So we'll go from there. 0-0.
All right. Real quick, Nick does bring up a good point because I'm relatively new to this. I am like a 3-year crazy fan now. I can't wait for Newcastle, Sunderland, the FA Cup tie coming up this weekend.
Oh, that's a classic. Is it? And it's at the Stadium of Light, I believe.
It is at the Stadium of Light.
And,
yes.
I've been
reading about it.
Nick and I went to high school together. So good to see him. I hadn't seen him in a while. So exciting times. But yeah, no, I think the cup is always fun. I think that
it's great
that the FA Cup has some fun matchups. There'll be some good games on the weekend, and I think that you got
better than Palace Everton today.
And sorry,
better than Palace Everton today. Gosh, it's terrible.
Yeah. That wasn't great. That's how we're gonna end it. Palace Everton in an absolute snooze fest.
Good luck. Good luck on Sunday.
Ditto.
It's not a league match. I'm going to watch it with a little bit more emotional freedom.
I'm going to be on pins and needles because I do think it's the first of a 4-game run that defines the season. So we'll go from there.
All right, man. Good luck to you,
Cheers.
Jay.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to everybody. Thanks.
Bye, guys.